I'm Vinay.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is For the Creators.
We're back.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It feels like a long time.
It hasn't been that long, mate. It's been a couple of weeks. Well, a couple of weeks for us recording, but not for our audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It feels like way longer than that. It feels like it's been a couple months, man. But yeah, excited to be.
That shows that you love what you do. So that's a good thing.
100%.
So, what have you been up to this week, sir?
Ooh, what have we been up to this week, man? An update on the laptop situation. My laptop is officially...
Computer says no.
Computer says no. Well, computer don't say anything. Computer's in a coma.
Until further notice.
Yeah, it's basically on life support, so pray for it. But Apple basically said that there's nothing that can be done with it. It was a GPU graphics card failure, and they no longer have the part anymore. So they said I can go get it fixed, but they can't fix it. So it's just one of them ones. But I've had it for 7 years.
Had a good run.
Had a good run. The computer still works, like the hard drive still works, so that's good. But yeah, so went to Apple and I asked them, look, we've got deadlines, man. We've got podcasts to release. We've got music to export, blah, blah, blah. Can I use one of the computers? He was like, yeah, go ahead. So obviously, pick the iMac Pro, the new iMac Pro 5K, 32 megabytes of memory and stuff. Yeah.
Basically, you went to Apple and turned them into your internet cafe.
Yeah, 100%. Even so the Genius Bar guy said I could use the computer. And then one of the other guys says, he's like, mate, what are you doing? Because I plugged in 2 hard drives in the back. I have my laptop on the side. I have my big laptop bag with the podcast recorder and stuff in it. And then I'm filming myself as well in it for socials. He's like, mate, what are you doing? I was like, well, yeah, I explained the story. He's like, go ahead. It's all good. So I managed to get
the Apple store and just took over.
Yeah, I managed to get a couple episodes which were basically in jail in Logic because I had nowhere to open it on. So yeah, but an upcoming guest was kind enough as well to offer his studio as well, which I'm going to be using to do future episodes. So that's been awesome. Really cool. And also my cousin who is now editing our episodes. So that's been brilliant. So we've got a new member of the team.
Out of every problem, there's a solution.
Absolutely.
That we didn't know that we needed, but
exactly.
It works out well all the time. Well, for me, it's just, I have missed a podcast but it feels like even though we haven't recorded, I feel like we did the right thing by batch recording. So even though we haven't been physically together, we've still been doing other things and working on building the strategy of what we're doing going forward and everything else, and obviously, you know, booking more guests, etc. So yeah, that's all I've been doing really. Nothing exciting, just work. Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
but it's all good. Yeah, so we had some really sick episodes recently.
Which makes me ask you the question, what was your main takeaway from the D. Ellen interview this week?
Ooh, so many. To dive in things and really do your best at them. Because he literally, that's what he done at every point in his career. Like he started off as a runner and figured out, you know, how's the best I can do this role to then get to the next thing. And he didn't set out to necessarily be where he is and in the country that he is and all of that. But because of his commitment to doing the best he can in his craft and for his family as well, because he had a young family at the time, that is what takes you. So I think, just diving in and doing your best.
Yeah, I think for me, I can't remember the line that he used, but you probably will. It's when he was talking about, does it leave while you're still having fun or leave?
Yes, leave the party while you're still having fun.
Leave the party while you're still having fun.
Absolutely.
So that was really cool for me because obviously when he left, you know, he was in a good job and he was actually a shareholder, a stakeholder in the business. So
That's right, yeah.
he was in a really good position. But then he also realized, like, where do I go from here? And then, you know, at times you can become stagnant, or you can become associated with one particular organization, so it places you in a box. And the other thing that I took from that as well, as a result of making that decision to leave while, you know, still enjoying the party, is when he went to New York, and then he spoke about when he went down, was it Broadway?
Yes.
And then he saw his future ahead of him, and he saw his past behind him. And that for me was just like a pivotal moment in the conversation.
Incredible.
Because it's nice to see that even though at the age of 40 doesn't mean that it's the end, it could actually be the beginning. Because even now, where I'm in my 30s, a lot of the time you think, oh, by this age I should have done that, and by that age I should have done this.
Yeah.
So knowing that you can still, you know, when you're in your 40s, is really down to you to start over whenever you want to.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, like, in our 30s now, we're saying, oh, you know, don't listen to what you said when you were 15 or 20 and stuff, because, you know, you didn't know what position you were going to be in, etc. But I still find myself doing it now for who I'm going to be when I'm 40, 50, etc. But I think it's good to do that. I just think it's good to also not take it so seriously as
It's a balance. It's like everything in life is balance. Because if you don't plan ahead, if you have no goals, if you have nothing to look forward to, then you're just like coasting through life. But at the same time, don't put so much pressure on yourself on how... on the final destination. I think that's why most people say enjoy the journey, because all of the lessons are in the journey.
Like, you could set your task to go on a journey and end up in Japan. You might start on that journey and then end up in Italy and love it. But the main thing is that you got moving, and you know. I think
that's why the why you're doing something is more important than the how. Because I think that in most cases, most of the things that we ask for, if you believe in God or the universe or whatever, you usually get them, just not how you expected.
For real.
And then we take most of the times, because we're taught to look at things like chronologically or in a linear sort of way, that we always expect things to happen one after the other, but they tend to happen like... Have you ever seen that meme about success where it's not a straight line? It's it goes up, it comes down, it goes around in circles, it comes back to this point, and
it comes back, it goes backwards.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I think that's what it's all about. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what I took from our interview with Dee. But guys, if you haven't listened to it already, it's probably one of the best interviews that we've done so far. Because you learn not only about him, it motivates you, but it also teaches you a lot about his craft as well, which is to be a film director, TV producer, and now he's working in advertising. Yeah,
at one of the biggest, most influential Oscar award-winning companies in the world.
Definitely.
So, and it also, obviously, like, most of our audience is from the UK and predominantly London. We do have listeners everywhere. Shout outs to everybody. Shout outs to Hungary, by the way. Top European country of the month.
Crazy.
For us. Mad. But hearing his story coming from London and going to New York and taking that leap at that time is very encouraging. So
yeah, which is really good to transition into our spotlight of this week, which is an up-and-coming journalist who's at the start of her career.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her name is Storm Thompson.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. And yeah.
Good. So can you explain to all of our millions of listeners, I'm joking, all of our...
Never know.
Yeah, exactly. All of our listeners, what it is you do and a bit about yourself.
So my name's Storm, and I've just finished university. I was studying multimedia journalism at Bournemouth University, and I'm just sort of picking up from where I left off on my gap year, which I took before my final year. And on my gap year, I started working for Gaudium magazine as a sub-editor, and I've been there for almost 2 years now. And I'm also a freelance writer for them. And for those that don't know, Gaudium are a magazine for women of colour. Well, it's written by women of colour for the rest of the world to read. And I also started radio hosting on my gap year I was the mid-morning host for Funky Essex, which is Essex's biggest urban and dance station. And so I used to do like Monday to Thursday, 9 to 11 a.m. And I absolutely loved it so much. But I had to stop because I had to go back to university. And then so now that I've left uni, I can sort of fully immerse myself back into the radio scene. And I've started at West Side Radio, which is sort of West London's biggest hip-hop community station. I'm on there every Tuesday with some other people, and I love it there. So yeah, I'm just sort of just freeing myself from uni and getting back into where I left off on my gap year. And it was nice because I got like a flavour of the real world, so I'm just getting back into that.
Very interesting. Was it a conscious decision to make a gap year, or was it a part of the course to have a gap year?
Well, initially it wasn't. There was just some things that I needed to, some sort of mitigating circumstances. But I also saw that as an opportunity to get loads of work experience, which I did. And so to anyone that has to take a year out, there's so many, don't see it as a negative, because for me, that was now like the best decision. Mm-hmm. Well, the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it allowed me to fall in love with radio and start working at Girls M.
Wow.
So it's presented opportunities for you. Yeah. So I guess it's just about perspective, is how you look at something rather than what's actually happening. And
what you do with a situation you don't necessarily expect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Really cool. Yeah, so I came across you on Instagram. Yes. And I was thinking, who's this girl? Because it was after Wireless and I was seeing that all of this posts, and Miss Stormy here was in everyone's post. I'm thinking, who is this Stormy JXX? So then I thought, then I went onto your profile and I saw that you were sub-editor for Galdem Zine. But then you also did an internship at Dazed. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Christmas. Oh, we're coming up to Christmas already. It's crazy.
I know.
But yeah, that was Christmas just gone. And it was probably the most productive internships I've ever done, because they give you a lot of sort of constructive criticism. And well, there were some days where I felt like the worst journalist ever, and I thought, what am I doing? But then after doing the internship, I realised that they just really want to help you, and they're not going to lie to you, and they just want you to improve. And yeah, it really did push me, and it just made me become a better writer, and they gave me so much advice. And they make you work so hard. I was literally there till sometimes 7, 8 in the evening, and then had to trek back to Essex to go to my mum's and come back first thing in the morning. But it was really good. And they allowed me to publish stuff on their site, which was nice.
That's really
good. So you weren't just sort of making teas and coffees. You were there working really hard.
Yeah.
That's it, because you need that hands-on experience, because in every field, now that you've left uni, you've got all of this to put on your CV.
Yeah.
And they've also given you a real life experience of what it will be like, because not every editor is going to be happy with your story.
Exactly.
And they may not like the angle, but at least now, after having that experience, you're a little bit tougher rather than going into it, fresh and green.
Yeah.
You're going into it kind of having an idea of what the expectation is or what the benchmark is.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And it's so important, and it's so valuable to have that constructive criticism. I think people are scared of those two words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, what I'm doing is so precious to me. Like, I can't have any quote unquote criticism. But people that are more experienced than you, it's very easy for them to point out blind spots. And those blind spots will help you improve like immediately.
Definitely.
So it's like, unless you're getting constructive criticism, you're not really growing.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to jump into that. And that internship sounded like that was the perfect thing for you.
It was intense, but it was
like
definitely worthwhile
like
doing. Yeah, definitely worth it.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit more about how you managed to get a press pass for Wireless?
Okay, so I was in university and I was meant to be doing my assignment, but I got a bit distracted and I saw the Wireless lineup came out, so everyone was looking at the lineup, and I thought, why is there like 3 females on the lineup out of a 40 plus acts lineup? And then I thought, I paused for a minute. I was meant to be doing my uni work, but I thought, I have to write an article about this. I just can't not speak about this. This is ridiculous. We're in 2018. Oh yeah, and also because that year was the year it had been 100 years since some women were given the vote to the right to vote. So I thought, in one sense, look how far women have come. Like, it's been 100 years since we can vote. However, the festivals aren't really reflecting how far women have come, because look at the lack of representation at festivals. And so I pitched it to my music editor at Galdem, and I wrote that article. And then I kind of forgot about the article, and about a week before Wireless, so this is moving forward to, when was Wireless? In June?
In July.
July, yes. Moving forward to July, I got an email from someone from the communications team at Smirnoff, and she said that she was their Smirnoff House are hosting an all-female stage, and they saw my article about the lack of female representation at Wireless Festival, and they asked if I wanted to interview artists at the female stage.
Brilliant.
And I thought, oh, that's amazing. People are actually, reading about what people have to say about this lack of representation. And so I went to Wireless, and I got to just have a conversation with artists about the future of female representation at festivals. And I spoke about what we think, gender equality at festivals will look like in 10 years' time, whether the Smirnoff House stage is enough. And it was just good to facilitate that conversation.
That's incredible.
It's really cool.
And it sounds like if you hadn't done the whole radio stint on your gap year, would you have been ready for that opportunity in terms of interviewing people?
Maybe not. I think it definitely, it all helps. I think doing radio just gave me the confidence to just get out there, and if I have an idea, just pitch it to someone or email someone, and just get it out from my head and onto the paper. I definitely think that helped.
Yeah,
I remember the first time I ever had my first ever radio show, and my mum was tuned in, and she said, "Storm, what, you need to smile." But I was like almost crying, and she could tell that I wasn't smiling because I was so nervous.
She could hear it.
Yeah, I sort of got dropped in the deep end.
Right.
Like my manager at the time showed me what to do and said, he just said that he believed in me, and he just said, right, now you know what to do, I'm going. And he left the studio. I was literally in the studio on my own, and my mum was like, you need to smile, I can hear you. You sound really worried.
So apparently they say that when you smile, because even when I do the intros, I try to smile whilst I'm doing it.
I do the
because
same.
It somehow changes your voice. That's really good advice from your mum.
Yeah.
Same with singing.
Yeah.
You're supposed to sing smiling because you can literally hear the difference. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. So out of all the things that you've done so far, which one would you say is your favourite, journalism or being a radio presenter?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Or are you still trying to figure it out?
I don't like being put into like a niche. I like to, sometimes I do spread myself too thin, and I try and do everything because I like a lot of things. But I want to carry on doing radio and carry on doing journalism. I probably want to stick to doing freelance journalism, because then you don't have the pressure of getting told what to write every minute. And I can just choose to write about things that, interest me. Like, for example, the Wireless thing.
Exactly.
That was me. I chose to do that. Yeah, so I didn't feel pressured.
Mm.
It was a pressure that I chose to put on myself, as opposed to being in a newsroom and getting told to write 1 million articles about it. Yeah.
So what is the experience like at Galdem Zine compared to Dazed? What would you say is the main difference between the two?
The main difference is it's really, really refreshing working with a team of people that all look like me, and we're all women of colour. And that's how sort of Galdem came about, because of that. The founder of Galdem and the deputy editor, they were sick of sort of working in newsrooms where they felt really underrepresented. So it's nice to feel represented and feel like truly valued. And I suppose that's the difference, because at Dazed there was only, I'd say, about 2 that I can think of. When I looked around the office, there was probably about 2 or 3 people of
Including you?
colour. Yeah, including myself.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there might be more in different departments, but that's all I could see. And so it's nice at Geldem, we're sort of in control of our own narratives. And yeah, that's what I sort of prefer at Geldem. Although I still love Dazed. Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling because we've covered this topic quite a lot recently, and still it just like baffles me that it's 2018 and we're still having this conversation of it being like, I'm in a room that I'm more comfortable in now because there's more people that look like me. Like what you just said about where you were before, that the imagery just reminds me of Hidden Figures, the movie.
I don't think I've seen. I might have seen.
So
it,
Hidden Figures is about
The
3
females,
genius
mathematicians.
exactly
Oh, yeah, I know the one, yeah.
that worked at NASA.
Yeah,
and they were in
is
that
Oprah
room.
in that one?
No, it's
different.
oh shit, what's her name?
Not Tiffany.
Tiffany Haddish?
No.
No,
I was getting the range wrong.
Empire.
Yeah.
Taraji.
Yeah.
Taraji.
Janelle Monáe and I can't remember
love her.
the other one. But yeah, amazing film, true story.
Yeah.
But that was 1940s, 1950s, and it's still the same in publishing, still the same in music, still the same in everywhere, still the same at festivals. And that's the one, I'm sorry, I just wanted to pick back up on that. How can festivals not be representative?
Yeah.
It's
Well, festivals
baffling,
is
like-
more of a sort of gender inequality.
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
Like, we all-
festivals
we
are
all-
deemed to be more free and
Exactly. It should be
open.
like, welcome to everyone.
It's just so weird that there's tons of female acts. I just don't get why.
I
they would- do you
know.
what I
Like
mean?
somebody actually made a fake lineup with and replaced every
Yeah, I
artist.
saw that. Yeah.
With females,
Yeah.
just to prove that it can be done.
Of course, it can be done. It's just like, sorry, I'm just passionate on the topic.
It can be done. You're right.
I just don't get it because when you listen to the radio, it's not just males, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
And,
just like music.
and that's
is,
just gender. Don't even get me started on disability because maybe that's something I might tackle next year, next festival season. But you know, it's so hard for people with certain disabilities to even get to enjoy the music that they love.
Oh, in terms of
Or
like the way a
even-
festival is
yeah.
structured.
Yeah, access to think of
Definitely.
even like disabled toilets at festivals. There's probably wasn't one at Wireless. I'm not sure.
Really?
Yeah,
True, I've never seen
Yeah.
one at a festival. And they
That's,
should
But
that's a
even
good
like
point. And they've all got
carnival,
stairs
just-
as well,
yeah,
haven't they?
and there should also be like a designated space
yeah.
for disabled people because when you're at a festival, it's really intense and it can be,
Yeah.
especially
And
with
anything
the
can
crowd,
go off at any
and
minute.
anything
moment.
can go off. So they kind of need to have like
Exactly.
a separate section for them. That's
But they're
kind
not
of
too
cordoned
separate
off.
that they feel
Exactly.
alienated,
marginalised.
but
Yeah.
still enough for them to be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're in like a festival crowd, literally, if one person starts running,
I know. Yeah.
it's game over for
Exactly.
It's
you.
really scary.
Yeah.
Mosh pits.
All of that.
Basically, and they
Yeah.
start throwing bottles. I think
Yeah.
at Wireless, I saw them throwing a girl's wig around.
Oh, I think probably. It wasn't mine.
And I think that's a really good topic to
Yeah.
discuss and
yeah.
explore for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So your journalism's important.
Yeah, so all the work that I do in terms of freelance journalism is I want to just give a voice to marginalised groups. So from gender to race, religion, ability, and just I just want to empower marginalised people.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really good. That's
definitely.
a good stance to take.
Mm.
So recently, Galdem Zine took over The Guardian.
Yes, I'm very excited
Did you
about
contribute
that.
to that? Did
I
you
didn't
write any of the
actually
articles?
write anything for this, but it's just so nice to be like a part of a team that are doing things like that. And
Did you see it, Ryan?
I saw it. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the weekend.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the Guardian Weekend magazine, we overtook that whole magazine. So every article, every photograph, every illustration
Really?
was written or produced by a woman of colour.
That's brilliant.
And that's never really happened before.
That is brilliant.
Yeah.
What was
That's so
the?
cool.
Because obviously it's been out. What's the feedback been, or the,
It's been
the
really,
impact?
well. It actually sold out in South Croydon, I think. Yeah, because someone was trying to get it and they couldn't get it anywhere in South Croydon. It's just, I definitely think it's going to put Galdem on the map even more.
Oh, for sure.
Do you know how that came about? Was it something that was pitched, or was it something like, guys, we want you to do this?
Well, it kind of started off as a kind of a joke between my editor-in-chief and the editor of the Weekend magazine. And then the Weekend magazine were just sort of like, yeah, let's do it. And so it started off as just a kind of a jokey comment, and it became a real thing. And I can't believe it. It's amazing.
Were you part of the whole process of selecting the topics that you were going to cover? Because I know that you did a piece on Beyonce. And
So
then there
yeah,
was
I
this actress
personally,
in there and
well, I didn't actually write
chewing
anything
gum.
for that magazine, but
were you part of the brainstorming process?
no, I'm just part of the team.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah. But yeah, since I've coming out of uni, I've just been so busy with lots of things. I haven't got involved in everything with Galdem. But
I think the listeners might be curious in what happened in that conversation between your editor-in-chief and the editor-in-chief at The Guardian. So obviously the editor-in-chief at Galdem is a woman of colour, right?
yes, yeah.
How about at The Guardian?
No.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, but The Guardian, I think they love us. They'll sort of, they always try to, I really like The Guardian because I feel like they genuinely listen to marginalised voices.
Out of all the news, I don't really like newspapers, period. But when I do see articles pop up, the ones from The Guardian tend to be a bit more balanced and a bit more representative of just different viewpoints.
Yeah, so it started off as sort of my editor-in-chief sort of mentioning it as a half joke, not even thinking anything serious would come out from it. And then The Guardian were just, just down to make it happen.
That's historic.
Yeah.
So what you said that you get up to quite a few different things. Is there anything exciting that you're doing at the moment that we should know about?
Well, there's lots of things. Well, so I want to continue with sort of with radio, and I want to start DJing as well. That's something that I've wanted to do forever, but I just haven't. I feel like I know how to DJ in my head, but I just don't know what buttons to press physically. So that's something.
Are you a good selector?
Yeah, in my head, and I'm always a DJ at house parties.
Oh, there you go. If you're a DJ at a house
exactly.
party, you just need to learn how to use decks.
Yeah.
It's all
Use the
about
equipment.
selection.
Yeah, and I love collecting vinyls at home. And I'm also working on 2 different books.
Oh, nice.
But my mum keeps telling me, you keep spreading yourself too thin, just work on one thing. But I just get so excited and inspired by things that I just can't help myself. I just have to work on different things.
I'm the same. We're the same. We was talking about this recently. And for example, the people who said, yeah, just do one thing at a time. I just can't do it. I have to spin loads of plates and it helps. It's more momentum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what type of topics are you covering in these books? Are you willing to share?
So, yeah, I don't mind. Yeah. So the first book it's a children's book series, and
oh, cool.
I want it to so again about sort of giving a voice to marginalised groups. So I want it to be each book in the series to be a normal sort of children's story, but the main character and the star in the story is a super marginalised person.
Right.
So it could be someone with a prosthetic leg and arm, and they're a ballerina, for example, but they're the best ballerina in the class. But I won't actually mention the fact that they have a prosthetic leg, because the whole point of the story is to let the readers know that there can be something different about you, and you can still be the best, and still be popular and still excel. And or that might be another story where it's just a normal children's story about a girl on her travels with her parents, but her parents are gay, for example. But I just won't mention the fact that the parents are gay. But just to show, there might be a lot of children that have gay parents that never see stories with
Like them.
Yeah.
And that are just normal. It's not
Exactly. So I just want to normalise that, marginalised situations.
Normalise the marginalised.
Yeah.
What is it within you that made you stand up for marginalised people?
I was going to ask that. Yeah, there must be a core reason why you. That's essentially your why, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think don't know why. And well, I guess I'm marginalised in some way. Like, for example, I went to an all-girls white private school where I was one of 3 black people. So I know what it's like to feel like you can't relate to people. Also, just as a female, sort of working in like journalism, which is generally a male-dominated industry. And I just think everyone should have a chance. So I just want to do that with my work.
Just
And
be the
it's
change you wanna
rewarding.
see.
Yes, it's rewarding, uplifting people that didn't think that they could be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Really
love that.
powerful.
Yeah.
I love it.
We're very much like minds. Yeah, because that's why we started the podcast as well. In a different sense of the whole reason for us is to uplift people and to give a voice to the voiceless. And
A spotlight.
spotlight, exactly.
Definitely. Because it's like in the world that we live in at the moment, is if you don't have 50,000 followers, if you haven't really written the biggest article as yet, no one gives you an opportunity to come and share your story. And I'm so happy that I invited you, because I didn't even know that, this was your passion and things like that, and how you got to Wireless. I just saw you at Wireless and assumed that you were doing I don't even know what I assumed. I just thought, who is this girl and how did she get at Wireless? And then obviously because you were doing, so now I understand why you were photographed with so many different
They literally all started just from
people.
an idea, just from seeing the lineup, and it just got me there. It's kind of crazy.
You can't plan those things.
And that's what inspires other people, and that's what would inspire our listeners. Like and I think intuition is so important. Like when that voice in your head tells you to do something, it's usually because the door's already open for you.
Yeah.
So you just have to literally just go ahead.
It's true.
Yeah.
And move forward with the idea. Because a lot of people, we get those like bursts of wisdom and we're just thinking like, who is it? Is it God? Is it like, who?
I mean,
who's
you have to
talking
listen
me?
to that voice.
But you have to listen to that voice and really follow your instincts, because imagine that you did, and the thing is you did it without expecting any reward. You just did it because you wanted to add value and you wanted to ask a question that needed to be asked.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why you attracted the opportunity.
Exactly.
So well
And
done.
like you said, you forgot about it.
Yeah.
You wrote it and you forgot about it because you didn't do it with the intention of anything coming off the back of it. It was because it needed to be said.
Yeah.
And that is so important. Like what you're saying, like you do have to listen to that voice. What I do want to say about that is that sometimes the voice isn't loud. Sometimes it's like, psst, yo, try to do this thing here.
I think I saw something like that on your Instagram feed.
It was
about
Steven
the whisper.
Spielberg, and you actually responded to that. I remember you saying that was really powerful or something, and I thought, and that's probably why it resonated with you.
Yeah.
Because
for real.
a lot of the things that we do, like even for us being here interviewing you now, it's not even something that we necessarily aspired to do, but it's something that's found us. So sometimes it will creep up on you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's mad. Brilliant.
Yes.
Cool. So
most creative thing.
what's the most creative thing we've seen in a while? Yeah.
I have seen in a while.
Yeah.
Oh,
Could be anything. I don't want mine
okay,
is now.
well, might not be the most creative thing, but my little sister, who's like, I just love her. She's my only sister, so she's my favourite sister. But the other day, she stayed at my grandma's where I live, and there was no internet. And, she's only 12 years old, so they live in that internet generation. And she started she found that previously she downloaded this app when she had internet, this where she can make beats.
Oh.
And then she started making a beat. She started tapping this book, and then she recorded the beat, and then she started writing over it, and she just made a song. And I just thought it was amazing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How old is she?
12.
That's sick.
Brilliant.
And I just thought it was creative that she just, out of nothing, just made a beat
Created
and
something.
made some
And
lyrics.
because there was no internet,
yeah,
she focused on that one thing.
she was just sort of forced to,
Create.
Restrictions breed creativity,
Exactly.
like I always say.
Trying to
Brilliant.
think, I've seen a lot of creative things lately, but now my mind's gone blank.
Yeah,
But
always
that's
happens.
a good one though, because it's thinking outside of the box a little bit, because everyone tends to refer to something that they may have seen on Instagram, like I'm going to do.
Like I'm gonna do.
I've seen a lot of things on your Instagram, actually.
It's also
good.
demonstrating that, creativity comes in all shapes and sizes and in all forms.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start thinking creatively about this question more, rather than the things that I've just necessarily seen. you know.
So your sister, like, that was creativity.
Yeah.
Like, in the purest sense. So that's really good. I like that.
Because I think if we had internet in my grandma's house, she wouldn't have. She would just be on YouTube. She wouldn't have. It wouldn't have allowed. She wouldn't have had that space to think of what else to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She would have been a consumer rather than a creator.
It's funny because I was watching something randomly on YouTube and it was talking about the rules that the Kim Kardashian and Kanye set for their children.
Oh.
Like they're only allowed to have, I think it's something like 30 minutes of screen time.
Okay, that's quite
which
good.
means that they can only use that 30 minutes a day.
Wow.
And I think these days it's such an easy cop out to just give your child a phone.
Yeah.
But then that limits their creativity. So
Yeah,
it would actually
majorly.
make sense to me that Kanye would, you know, set that type of rule because he's going to probably encourage them to do art, to do dance, to do all these other things. But sometimes I think the internet stifles creativity a little bit because it's this easy cop out. So you just go for the easy thing rather than before. You know, your parents will probably have to find things for you to do, like arts and crafts, you know, get you to write on a chalkboard and all of these things. And I think those are really good in terms of opening up your awareness. Like I took my niece to do pottery and she really enjoyed it.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things that I found when I took her to do that was a lot of the parents were trying to dictate to the children to try and make their paintings perfect.
Oh, really?
And I just let her just have free reign. And hers came up better than mine because I was conditioned, because I did a lion and she did a unicorn.
Yeah.
But I was so conditioned to make sure that, you know, I painted it so it looked like a lion. But she didn't care. Like she just I was, don't mix and then I just gave up. She just mixed the colours up and hers came out looking amazing because she just had free reign to do what she wanted to do. So
art isn't about being right, is it?
No,
it's
no.
just about expression.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that as well, the reason why I wanted her to do that is because I want to take her back at different ages to see how her art develops. So if you've got the first one, then you can take her back again. You see how now she's learning how to draw within lines. But then at the same time, it's like, do you want her to draw within lines? Because then that means she's stuck in the box. So, but yeah. So.
Oh, I love that.
My
I love
mum's
that.
actually an artist.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a fun fact of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a visual artist and she sort of, well, her work is mainly, again, it's about marginalised groups. That's probably where I get it from as well.
Yeah.
But she's sort of like, so sometimes I find it hard to describe her work. What does she do? She looks at like race and her position as like a black British female. And like her latest piece of work is she's looking at the black presence in rural areas like Essex and because we sort of know, well, we more know about the black presence in areas like London and Birmingham, for example, big capital cities, but people don't really know that black people existed, say, in the Tudor times in rural areas in England. So she's just sort of putting a contemporary, like, creative lens on that and creating work with that.
Is it out, like, to see?
So
anywhere?
that she'd released the pilot for that project a couple of months ago. But
So when you say visual artist, is it like a static image or is it?
So now she's doing sort of more photography and video art. She can draw and paint, but she's just looking at. But it's all visual, all something that you can see. She's even done like text-based art,
Right.
Just visual.
It'd be great to see that.
Yeah, she
sounds
really. My mum's
interesting.
probably my biggest inspiration, and I can't wait till I get to interview her one day.
Yeah, that'd be
That would be
amazing.
really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great to see that. We'd like to like share that if possible.
Yeah.
That'd be good. What's your mum's name?
Elsa James.
Elsa
but yeah, I
James.
can send you links to
Links
the
to her
website
work,
and stuff. Yeah.
Perfect.
So my most creative thing I've seen in a while is actually work done by this American female artist called Alexa Mead. So she's a 30-year-old and she's invented this style of painting that transform three-dimensional world into what appears to be two-dimensional.
Yes.
So
I saw
she
that.
flips
Yeah,
it. She
that's
flips the
amazing.
script on it.
Yeah.
So she makes real life look like paintings
Yeah.
essentially.
Nuts.
And I just thought that was so
It's-
amazing
yeah.
and so unique and thinking outside of the box.
I love that.
That
yeah.
was the most creative thing I've seen in a while.
that was like wow. That was mind blowing.
Yeah.
So if
Mine
you scroll
was-
back through our Instagram, guys, you can
Yeah, I
see
think
what
I
we're
actually saw
referring
it
to.
on your
Yeah.
Instagram. It's amazing.
Yeah,
A lot to wash off, but it's worth it. Definitely worth
it's
it.
definitely worth it. The one that popped up in my mind was another one that was, it's like plug for the creators podcast Instagram. But the other one where it was like there's dangling
The
objects.
guns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for
Oh, the
example, like
perceptual art.
the perceptual
Yeah.
art. Oh my days. It's so sick. It's sick for two reasons. One is perceptual art. So when you're looking at it, it looks like one thing, and when you move, it looks like something else. So when, for example, you look forward and it's a gun, and then you go to the right and it's the shape of America.
Yeah.
Like, and that just says everything, right? And
I think that was something probably done to about the whole issue around gun
Of course.
crime.
But
Yeah,
that represents
exactly.
so much in the world. Like, not everything is how it seems at first. So
yeah, exactly. And what was good is because I'd seen that example from before, but in this clip there was like so many other examples, and it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it was mind blowing. Like, how did you think of that? Like, even there was one with the jeans,
The
the
Lee
Lee jeans. Yeah,
there,
so
that
you
was
see
really
the jeans
good.
from the front, you go to the side, and it's got the Lee logo. It's like,
Wow.
how did you do that? It's so sick. I love
There's
that.
so much thought that goes
Yeah,
into
exactly.
it.
And then the actual thing is made out of jeans as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's like three aspects
Just
of
layers
like,
and layers of creativity.
Yeah.
But the gun one for me really stood out because it's America from one view and a gun. So how do you align the images of, and it's actually guns
And it's
that
guns
are
hanging down.
dangling
Yeah.
mad.
to create America, and
Mad.
then
That's
you
science.
look at it from a different perspective and it looks like a gun. How
Yeah.
the hell do you set things up? So
It's nuts.
it's like you're painting so many different images, or not even painting, or you're portraying
Your positioning.
yeah,
like-
positioning two different things. And finding stuff, finding things for our daily creative spotlight is probably one of my favorite things in the world to do,
Oh, good.
because every single time I'm just like, how
Ow, it's
did
like
you
magic.
even think of that? So
Magic.
Yeah.
literally,
Wow.
because for it to go from the initial thought, so everything starts with a thought,
Definitely.
and then
yeah.
for you to put it into action. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about creativity, and
Yeah.
why you need to listen to that voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the whole reason behind this podcast. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you go from nothing?
But even this podcast, it started as an idea in one of your heads.
Yeah.
And now we've got
Here
a
we
real
are.
microphone here, and it's a physical thing.
Exactly. That's just the most wonderful thing
Yeah.
in the world. It's magic.
Definitely,
It
it's
is.
magic.
Well, one of my favourite quotes by Roald Dahl, he was my favourite childhood author,
Yeah.
is, "Only those who believe in magic will see it." And
Very
that's one
true.
of my favourite quotes.
That's a really powerful quote.
Yeah.
That is very powerful. I might have to get that tattooed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the topic of this week is, can the decline of print media be avoided? So what are your thoughts on that, guys?
I think that although print media is declining, everything's online now. Even with like cinema, people can go and watch films on Netflix. Like, just everything's going online. But I think people still like to hold something in their hand. It's that tactileness. You want to feel the pages. Well, I don't know. Some people don't care. Some people actually don't care. So that makes me think maybe it will decline and just eventually disappear.
Yeah,
I think it would change. I think, like, for example, there's tons of, like, there are magazines out and stuff now, but a lot of them are free because the
Yeah.
business model behind the publication has changed. But people do still like to have something to read that's not
Yeah.
necessarily on their phone or on the internet, because the internet, all the internet is images and text and sound.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So it's the internet is a publication. It's just infinite. But there is something
And it
about
doesn't weigh your bag down. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if you're carrying loads of magazines around, it's heavy and it could be awkward. Whereas your phone, you can have a whole library in your hand, the palm of your
exactly. You
hand.
can have a whole library and then, you know, it regenerates. It's not the
Yeah.
same old content. But then at the same time, it's nice to be offline and just read something that's, you know, specific. But yeah, I think just in terms of technology and the next generation not necessarily valuing something that's physical and like one topic. And also that coupled with the business model, because the business model is advertising, and to make it sustainable, most of it is ads. Like if you pick up any like fashion magazine, for
Vogue
example,
is like, I think
where
sometimes
are
like
the
60,
articles?
60 pages of adverts first.
Yeah.
I've counted once,
Really?
and it was around like 60 pages of adverts first before I got to like the contents page, then like 10 more pages, then an article.
And it's like, would you visit a website if it was just pure adverts before you? No.
I think
Skip.
people will buy a Vogue magazine for a different reason than going on Vogue, the website.
I think it's probably like a collector's item.
Yeah,
but one of
that's
the
what it
things
is.
that jumped out to me, and I was saying to Ryan recently, is so the September issue of Vogue with Rihanna on it was only £2, and that really stood out to me because I was like,
cheap.
it's £2. That's really cheap, and that's kind of what gave me the idea for this topic as well. Because I was thinking, wow, it must really mean that, you know, printed media is declining, because I remember when I was buying magazines back in the day, I wouldn't buy Vogue because it was too expensive. It was usually about £6 at least, I think.
Exactly.
And now it's £2.
Was that, I don't know if that was on a deal.
I think it was on a deal, but just the fact that it will go as low as £2 just really stood out for me. But one of the things that I think, one of the reasons why I think it would eventually go out is because people are becoming a lot more conscious of the impact on the environment.
That's true.
And like, you know,
I
like
didn't even consider that. Yeah.
So in terms of like, you know, the whole idea of the whole issue with global warming, and if we're just using papers for people to then eventually throw down, there's not going to be any way of justifying it if you can then just go on a digital platform and read the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well for me would be for those people who are disabled. It kind of, being digital solves a lot of problems. So you're not creating unnecessary waste.
Yeah.
If someone is visually impaired, they can potentially just listen to the article online.
Yeah.
So it's like there's so
Or they
many.
can make the font bigger and just things like that.
Yeah, but then when it's just a newspaper, like, and I also think it goes back to what Ryan said in the whole thing, like we have an attachment to it because we've grown up in this generation. So we're familiar with print, but the average child who's coming up and their whole world has always been digital, they won't have that attachment
Exactly,
to
not
a
at all.
newspaper.
Or it might become more special. Like, for example, with Gaudet magazine, we have an annual print, and then we post articles on the website every day, like online.
That makes sense.
But then everyone, when the annual print comes around, because it's only once a year, you're going to want to buy it because it's
limited
special.
edition, yeah.
Exactly.
So it becomes a collector's item,
Yeah.
something that I have in my bedroom, along with my other favourite magazines. That I don't buy it every day, but I've got it there almost. Yeah, it's almost like on display. Like it's just
Yeah, like buying a book.
yeah.
It's funny because I was going to say, like, with Vogue being £2 and you being able to see the same article online, it's like, what can the magazine offer you more than what the online article can? You know?
I think people who probably read, because even like when I used to work, I read more when I was commuting. So I think the only people who probably picks up a magazine or even a newspaper these days are people who are
But you
commuting.
can even get Wi-Fi on the underground now, apparently. Somehow.
Yeah, you can.
So,
So that again, just like, how do you justify?
and there's like multimedia elements. That's it. With online, you can, like you said, you've got audio, video. There's so many different things you can do where instead of just reading.
and the fact that when it's printed online. On your articles, you can change it up. It can become more relevant. This article has been updated because of new
like the Daily
information.
Mail, they do that quite a lot. They change their articles if there's something not like politically correct. You know, they could change it before you even know.
Exactly,
notice,
it's not permanent. But in that respect, like you're saying, magazines or print media could become more of like a collector's item.
Yeah.
Like if the next generation starts to view it like they do sneakers, like trainers, where they have that, you know, first adopter vibe where they just, you know, everyone buys it and then they resell it and it becomes something that's a bit of a collector's item, then maybe I reckon that's what the future will be.
Like enthusiasts, people who would genuinely, because you know, like people who are into calligraphy and things like that, they would want.
It's like
to
the
have things
vinyl
printed.
revival, and
exactly,
like I'm sure when the cinema first came out, people probably thought, oh, no one's going to go to the theatre anymore because you can just watch loads of films at the cinema. But then the theatre is something like a special treat because it's not something you do every day, and it becomes like nostalgic.
The value proposition changes over time. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you start thinking about it. But do you think that it could have been avoided? Is there any way of avoiding the decline of print media?
They could have been. It's the same with every old established industry. It gets disrupted and then they react too slow. Or they can see the trends changing and then it's like, oh no, we're too high and mighty.
It's been declining for a while. Like I remember even, the independent newspaper's gone now. They still got the Eye. They're a smaller newspaper, but but it's online.
Like New York Times, like all of the, like they've all had to adapt. Because they had to adapt.
Yeah.
But the reason that it is where it is because it could have been avoided. Same with music industry. Same with what's happening with movies and copyright and Netflix and all of that. It's the big players always react too slow to being disrupted.
Because they get comfortable. They've got this business model. It's worked for all these years. Why change? But one of the things I was going to ask is, do you think that is also going to have an impact on the workforce, especially for journalists? Because if it's online, do you think that now there's less opportunities for journalists?
Yeah, I definitely think like this whole digital age does impact journalists because there's a thing called mobile journalism now. So you can, for example, look at the Grenfell Tower disaster. People were filming things from their phones and they're not actual journalists, but then those pictures could make the headlines and it just means that anyone can be a journalist now because everyone has a phone.
Yeah. And the credibility as well.
And they'll get the credit for it, which is fine because they captured it, but anyone can be a journalist. So it's kind of worrying for me in some ways, but then at the same time, because anyone can be a journalist, I think publications, they want them to be, to still hold traditional like journalistic values, to still know how to write an article properly.
I suppose because then otherwise it's just Twitter, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's got a voice. Everyone's got the ability to post images and text.
Yeah.
But technically that is journalism, but it's not journalism in the way that everyone sees it, because journalism has a sense of credibility.
Yeah, so that's the credibility.
Yeah, if a journalist writes something and they're a respected journalist, then it's like they've done their research, they've got credible sources.
Instead of just churning out words and sort of reacting to emotions, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny because when I left college, I wanted to be a journalist and I went to the London College of Printing. That was my first uni.
Even though there was a London College of Printing.
They had a London College of Printing and it was deemed to be like one of the top journalism universities. And then when I went there, it was a different time. So this was probably around 2004. And when I went there, I remember vividly the reason why I stopped doing journalism was because it was the time when celebrities were becoming journalists. So before, when you were a journalist, you were a strict journalist. You had to learn the craft, you had to learn the shorthand, you had to do all of that stuff. And I remember I was in uni and I'm learning shorthand, I'm going through all of this. And then we had a lecture, and this is when like people like Kelly Osbourne and all that were really popular. Yeah. And they would just get an article in a magazine that you'd be working
because
your
of
ass
their
off
name,
to get into. And it just became a thing where all of these celebrities like Peter Andre and all of that, they were just getting all of these columns. And I was thinking to myself, so where does that leave me? And I remember I went to a lecture and they were saying to us, you know, what's up, how much we can potentially earn. And they were saying like, obviously, because it's a lot of freelance work, you can probably earn like £12,000 a year and things like that. And I just thought, well, this is not for me. I'm not sitting here for this amount of time to earn £12,000. But it just really, that just stood out for me now, because I'm thinking an organisation that's called the London College of Print, does that, like, how did they evolve?
Yeah, for real.
I think that's why, like, for me as a journalist, I don't want to just rely on just sort of writing articles as my sole source of income. That's why I want to like sort of dip my toe in loads of different things, because I'm worried that I won't get paid enough and it won't be able to support me just doing just one type of journalism or just that.
Yeah, sorry to cut you. I think you have to be multifaceted.
Yeah.
in like now, and especially going into the future.
Yeah.
Because I think being a specialist isn't going to be as important anymore. I think you're going to have to be special at many different things. Do you know what I mean? And everyone's more than capable.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Like we're not trained or conditioned to do one thing anymore. Like, you know, we can be good at many different things. And because of technology and stuff, things don't take as long anymore. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, like writing an article in 1960
on
and
a
then
typewriter.
getting it to print and getting it out to the world would have taken way longer than the article you did for wireless. You know, and it's about timing with these things as well, isn't it? You hit the note.
Getting something published online is literally about pressing one button.
Instantaneous. Yeah.
So you're part of the global conversation before it passes. Because if that was back in the day, by the time it was published, you'd be like, well, that's gone now. Like, we don't really care. So yeah, I think going forward, it's about being good at many different
and
things.
it's also about horizon scanning as well. So not just thinking 1 year ahead, but trying to look forward to see, you know, how is my job going to be impacted in the future? Because I remember I gave a presentation at uni once, and it was about all of the industries that have been completely crushed or eliminated because of the mobile phone. And could you imagine, those were like massive factories with thousands of people that were creating cameras, that were creating radios, that were creating so many
CD
things.
players.
And if you're only stuck in this realm where you're only focused on what you're doing now and not actually looking to what's happening in the future. So I feel like there would always be a space for journalists, but just not in the capacity
just the role would just
that
change.
we see them now.
I think that's why I chose my course, because it seemed to keep up with the times. Like even the name multimedia journalism, like we don't just focus on print or we focus on, like we've even had a unit on mobile journalism, just because they really want to be up to date and like evolve with the digital age that we live in.
Good.
So I thought that was the most logical course to take if I'm going to do journalism. Yeah,
it makes sense. And if you think about it, AI is going to take over a lot of like menial jobs. So even in respect to journalism and the uprise of fake news, for example, being a respectable journalist and someone that's credible is going to be really, really valuable going forward.
Exactly,
do you know what I mean? Because if you're someone that people can look at and you're a trusted source, then you know, then people will be happy to
exactly. So while there is a rise
and
of fake news, that means that credibility is valued. So
key. And it's also about, you know, what you've done. You've chosen a topic that's going to be relevant for a long time, but in different ways.
Yeah.
So as we've seen with sexuality, there's so many different types of sexualities now. So there's different people who could be marginalized and things like that. So I think it's just about thinking outside of the box and continuously like pushing yourself and not just sticking with the status quo.
Yeah.
And if journalists do that, then there will be longevity. But if you're just stuck in your ways, which probably some of the older journalists maybe who haven't embraced the digital age, because they're probably those top guys who are sitting at the newspaper thinking we're going to be here forever. So I think the younger generation are not going to be
what they're going to do if that
restricted.
newspaper gets closed down and they don't know how to use, navigate around a website, for example.
It's going to be very interesting because obviously the way the media works now is very, very old school, and it's very incumbent of an old school mindset. So, negativity sells and all of that.
Yeah.
But I think that our generation and the generations that are up and coming, we don't really tune into that too much. I'd like to think so anyway. And I think over time, people like yourself, you're a journalist now, and you'll be, you're going to go up and become editor-in-chief and things like that. So then,
I'd love
to. Your mindset is then going to be, your why would then live out on a bigger scale. Do you know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So then things will change over time. So what we deem as journalism now could be completely
There'll
different.
Be a different definition. Yeah. If you
Definitely.
compare the definition of journalism now to in 2028, it's scary to think of that. But it will be slightly different.
And I think it's going to be like incremental progress, but all of that is very key for like, I don't know, like 2028, but like 2078.
Oh, imagine.
Do you know what I mean? Like it could be because that incumbent mindset kind of.
I think what the internet
Goes
has
out the
given
window.
us in general is it's given us the true meaning of democracy.
Democratizes everything.
Yeah, because before we live in the United Kingdom where it's supposed to be a democratic society, but we all know there's still the powers that be that sit at the top that make all the decisions. But online,
You can do anything. Like even
it's
radio.
so democratic. So I think going forward, the powers that be wouldn't. I don't even know if they'd even exist in the same way because
That's what I'm saying.
it's almost like the people's revolution right now.
It's good. Like even like Radar Radio, which isn't around anymore, but that blew up massively because it meant that rappers could go on there and they could swear in their lyrics, for example, because it was online.
Yeah.
Whereas they felt like they couldn't do that at, say, BBC Radio and
Radio
Extra,
One, exactly.
for example. But then it means that because people have that freedom, it means that people with bad intentions they also have that freedom as well. So it can be quite scary. And then
That's the thing.
it's scary for me, like for example, having a younger sibling, I want to protect her from, God knows what is out there.
But I just think that we all need to go out into the world with a positive mindset. I think because we've been trained to think negatively as a collective. So if we start thinking positively and spreading love, even just within your circles, then hopefully what you give out is what you attract.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I feel like a lot of we're so conditioned to think negative that we don't even realize it. And that's why the media in this current state has worked for so long. But now everyone's really just about love. Like love is being used so much now,
love
and inclusivity and that accepting people for who they are.
Yeah, that's a good word, acceptance.
So if we all put that energy out there, like by doing what we're doing, by doing what you're doing,
hopefully it will multiply and just spread.
it will
That's
just
what it
multiply
is.
and spread.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we've been in a world that's been so negative for so long. It's like when there were wars and stuff before, no one questioned it. Now we're questioning, like, why are we actually going to war?
I think, people seem more curious now and less willing to accept.
Well, I think that's going to be because of technology. Now we can see evidence of people questioning, whereas before, unless it was someone around you, you wouldn't hear the conversation, right?
Yeah.
But now,
Exactly,
I know what Jenny in Sacramento is thinking.
Exactly.
At
Maybe
any point,
people
do you
have
know what I
always been curious, but we're just the internet allows you, like you said, to see it.
And
then-
also the internet gives you a sense of you can be anonymous.
Yeah.
So you can actually share your true feelings.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Even though
Yeah.
sometimes it's a bit too true.
Right, like what you were saying, you kind of get both sides of
Yeah.
the coin, don't you? But yeah, I think that then makes the voice louder. Do you know what I mean? Which is what's happening, and one thing inspires the other. So if you see someone in another country doing something or standing up for something, that then makes you, so it can inspire you to do the same thing, which then can inspire someone else. You know what I mean? So over time, this voice gets louder, and hopefully it starts to balance out a bit.
Yes. This brings us really nicely down to if you were to speak to your 10-year-old self,
Yeah.
knowing everything that you know now and having done everything that you've done, what would you say to her and why?
How old's your sister, by the way?
12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we
That's
have an
interesting.
11-year age gap.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's we both really enjoy that age gap. It's nice.
But you can also maybe say it to your sister.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, I would tell her, just don't be shy. Just literally just be yourself, be your weird, wonderful self, and just don't compare yourself to others as well. And just sort of look forward. And when you do something that you kind of debating whether to do in your head, shall I do this? Will people think I'm really weird if I do this? Just don't even think about it. Just keep going forward and don't look back. And then when you do eventually look back, you'll think, wow, I've come really, really far. But it's just, I don't know. I would say monitor yourself on one hand, but don't doubt yourself. That's,
Powerful.
Really good.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for being on.
You're welcome.
It's been a really, really inspiring and great conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, the topic was really good as well. We
Yeah.
took
Yeah,
it
it's
to
definitely made me
places that we didn't I didn't expect to go, so that was really good.
The future of journalism.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's also nice to hear your why as well, and that you're championing, helping the marginalized. And if we can do anything on our side to help that will be amazing. We've actually got an interview coming up with this lady who created the Triple Cripples.
Oh, what's that?
It's basically a charity for disabled people because they want their voice to be heard.
Yeah.
So it's giving them a voice as well.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Because one of the things I remember when I spoke to her, she was saying that, especially within the Black community, we're probably the worst for inclusivity.
Definitely.
Because we don't include, like, when the average typical Black event, when did they ever make
that is so true.
when did they ever consider a disabled person?
Never.
Like,
I've never.
even things like
that I
just
know
having
of.
a ramp or just simple things.
Yeah, for real.
Or even a disabled toilet. Like, we don't really
No.
think about that, and that is what her
Yeah,
organization's
disability and
been
like
created.
sexuality.
But especially that.
You know, being half Jamaican. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there's Black people.
There's a lot of hang-ups there.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to have them on, but it's been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed
featuring
it.
you on the show,
really inspiring.
and
Thank
I
you.
look forward to all of the great things that you're going to do in the future.
Yes, I look forward
Editor-in-Chief.
to. Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you so much.
You're
Where
welcome.
can people follow you online?
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at StormyJXX. I have a blog, but it needs to be updated a little bit. But it's www.alternative, etc. So alternativeetc.wordpress.com.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Cool.
Twitter,
Wow.
I'm planning my comeback. Don't worry, I'll be back soon.
Come join me on
Come
Twitter,
back will
man.
be televised.
I live on Twitter. So, yeah.
So as usual, guys, as we say every single week, do not forget to click on the subscribe button so all of our latest episodes just ends up in your inbox, your notifications. You can also follow us on Instagram at For The Creators Podcast. We're on Twitter as _the creators, and on Facebook at For The Creators Podcast as well. Website coming very, very soon.
Yeah.
And yes, it's been a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we look forward to having your ears next time.
Absolutely. And we've been getting some really, really good reviews since Apple decided to delete ours. So thank you for everybody that's writing good notes and giving us 5 stars. Yeah, thank you so much. It really helps. So yeah, we'll see you again next episode.
Bye.
Bye.